I've made hundreds of thousands of dollars as a DevOps engineer over the past few years. And if I told you the skill that allowed me to do this, you will be surprised. It's not technical, it's not Linux, it's not Kubernetes. And in this video, I'm going to explain the skill and the system that allowed me to go from nurse, making $50,000 a year, to DevOps engineer, making well over 200K a year. So let's jump in. Just to paint the picture where I was, right? Like I was working as a nurse in the hospital, making about 50K a year. I had to go to a place to work there. I had to show up at a certain time. I had to travel for a while. I had to do work that I enjoyed, but which exhausted me, and I felt stuck. I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life because, as anyone else, I was using social media, and I'm interested in computers and coding as a hobby. But I sort of saw that type of content, and then I saw people like software engineers traveling around in camper vans, working remotely, talking about how they don't have to go to an office or go to their job. And I thought, I want that. That is what I want. But I felt that, like, what chance did I have? Like, I'm a nurse, right? I don't have a CS degree. How am I ever going to achieve what they have? Those were my thoughts. And now, 7 years after I was watching those social media posts, I have been working as a senior DevOps engineer, and I'm now even an independent business owner and teaching other people how to create these careers and to become DevOps engineers as the CTO of KubeCraft. So it is possible. If you're watching this and you resonate with, you have a job that you don't want and you want to work in the tech industry, it is 100% possible. I did it and you can do it as well. But when I was in that moment of, okay, I want to learn, I need to learn all of these tech skills, but I didn't have the means to take a CS degree. So I realized that what I needed to learn was to learn. The main skill that made my career transition and my success as a CTO possible is the skill of learning how to learn. And I don't understand how I never was taught this. I went through school, through university, I have a bachelor's degree, but no one ever taught me how to actually learn, how to efficiently consume and store information and organize information for easy retrieval. No one ever taught me that for some strange reason. So when I was working as a nurse and I realized, okay, I need to learn all these skills, how am I going to do this? Well, I had already gained this sort of researching kind of personality, fortunately. So I started to research on the internet. And fortunately, there were creators like Ali Abdaal and Tiago Forte who specialized in this kind of productivity YouTube and who showed people how to actually study efficiently and how to manage your time more efficiently. And I learned a lot from those guys. And through this process, I came across the act of note-taking and to take notes properly and to organize them efficiently. And eventually, this led me to the Zettelkasten method. And my life has completely changed when I learned to take notes properly. And I still, to this day, do it every single day. You can see in my current note-taking system that it currently contains nearly 6,000 files. So 5,000 notes currently in my system. And these notes are about everything. Everything that I've learned over the past 7 years is contained in this note-taking system. So you've probably gone through this experience, right? You watch a course or you read a book, and then let's say the book is about Linux security, because this is one of the examples that I had from my own career. You read a book, and then you're excited, and you think, okay, I've read the book, now I should understand it, right? And then you sit down at your terminal, and you will realize, mind completely blank. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've watched a course and I'm sitting there thinking, oh, I'm learning so much. This is great. And I truly feel that I'm mastering this now. And then you walk away, you start to actually apply it, and it's just blank. There's just nothing there. If you've ever had this experience, then you are probably like me. The thing is, the brain tricks you into thinking that you are learning. As you're watching this course, as you are reading this book, your brain tricks you that, oh, this feels nice. I am actually learning something. But all of that is just mental masturbation. learning is defined as a change in behavior. So if you do something, but you have the same behavior afterwards, you haven't actually learned anything. So how do you learn efficiently? Well, there are several ways of doing this. One thing I advocate is to always learn through doing practical projects. So instead of just reading a book and then doing it, you should actually do it as you go through the book and put your hand on the keyboard. This is one of my biggest mistakes, to just read books and books and never start to apply it. So that's one thing. But the second thing is to actually slow down, take the information you're learning and organize it by taking notes, and taking notes properly and writing them in your own words. Here's something I learned the hard way. Writing forces understanding. I started a blog when I decided to make my career change. Every week I would share what I was learning that week. And even though I felt I understand the topics, when I sat down to write about them, I would discover that I could not write about them at all. It was hard to explain them. And this is the best test for understanding. If you can't write about something, you don't understand it. And this is why note-taking is so powerful. Like, note-taking is the act of writing down the information as you're learning it. But you should not be like copying the text. You have to actually put it into your own words. And this is the best test of understanding. This has its origins with Richard Feynman. He was one of the best physicists in the world. And he had this teaching technique where he would always try to force himself to explain things as if he was talking to an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old. And this is a physicist, so someone who is like doing much more advanced stuff than, running containers or Kubernetes. Like, this is a whole different ballgame. And he would try to always explain that to kids, basically. And if you do that, you force yourself to go down to the base level. What is actually going on and what am I actually trying to say here? And you also do this in writing. So when you're learning a topic, you have to write about it in your own words and try to force yourself to surface the knowledge from your brain and to put it into your own words. Maybe you translate it to a different language or something like that, but you have to make it your own. This is extremely important because this will help you in memory. For me, for example, when I was learning containers, it didn't stick for me. It was very hard for me to actually make it stick in my mind. And I came up with the idea that containers are like newspapers. So usually you would run virtual machines, and those are more like books, physical books. They have a hard cover, they are well protected, they have everything they need to run. So in this case, the virtual machine has its own operating system, which is the book cover. And they are built to last. Like, a book is meant to stand in a bookcase and to stick around for a long time. That is a virtual machine. But a container is more like a newspaper. A newspaper is like very thin. It is printed on lower quality paper. And if it gets wet, it's completely useless, right? And you get a new newspaper every single day. So newspapers are not built to last, they are actually built to be replaced. This helped me understand the difference between virtual machines and containers. And to this day, as I'm talking to you here, I remember this metaphor that I came up with myself. And because you're coming up with your own language, you're also remembering it much better. And you force this kind of learning by writing about it. And this is the power of note-taking. And most people never do this. They copy-paste documentation into Notion, they highlight paragraphs in blog posts, they bookmark articles they never read again, but that is not learning, that is hoarding. Your brain should operate like a factory, not a storage unit. Here's how it works. You have input, everything you consume, YouTube videos, documentation, and blog posts. And then you have processing, writing it in your own words, connecting ideas, and building mental models. The next step is output. These are the certifications, the blog posts, the interviews, projects, and promotions. Most engineers only do input. They consume and consume and consume, but without processing, nothing sticks. And without output, you have nothing to show for it. And this is the importance. You have to build this model for yourself where you have input, where you're processing everything, and then that translates to output. And as you know, I'm producing an insane amount of output. Even while I was working as a full-time DevOps engineer, I was posting on LinkedIn 5 times a week, putting out a YouTube video every week, writing a blog post, learning certifications, building a company, all of that. I'm doing all of that at the same time. All of this is powered by a note-taking system. I've done all of this through note-taking. So what is a note-taking system? Well, you probably have something you call a note-taking system. You will have a Google Drive that contains tons of random Google Docs. You probably have a USB stick that contains some of the things that you wrote in school. Then you have a hard drive somewhere that contains other notes and other things that are gathered. But there's no overarching system to this. There's no way of organizing everything. And this is where you need to learn a proper system. So there are a couple of things I recommend. I recommend looking into the Para method by Tiago Forte. And if you've done that for a few years, then you should look into the Zettelkasten method. And you can apply this to almost anything, right? Like Ali Abdaal, he's a productivity YouTuber, but he used these techniques to become a doctor. But there's no one out there who actually teaches this stuff specifically for tech careers. And this is why when I set out to build KubeCraft, where I help people land remote 6-figure DevOps jobs, I did not want to just create a technical course. I would actually teach people how to do all of these other skills as well. So I have a few competitors in the DevOps space, but none of them will be able to teach you Focus OS, which is the system that I use to go from nurse to DevOps engineer. So here I teach people the actual skill of learning how to learn and how I do it. Then I actually develop my own complete note-taking system where we use Obsidian, and I have a starting system where you start taking notes and organize them properly, but then the next level is then going to be the Zettelkasten method, where I will actually teach you how to take these notes, process them properly so that you remember them. But then the critical part is then to turn them into output. So as I said, I've created hundreds of blog posts, hundreds of YouTube videos while working full time. That does not happen by accident. That happens because I have a system in place that allows me to do this in very little time. This is how I grew my LinkedIn profile, how I grew my YouTube channel. All of these systems I teach here in KubeCraft. So if that sounds interesting to you, if you want a remote 6-figure DevOps job, click the link down below and book a call with my team, and I would love to welcome you inside KubeCraft. So the meta skill here is to learn, how to actually consume information, and how to do that efficiently and properly and organize that well so that you can utilize this in many areas of your life. And there are 3 superpowers of a note-taking system. The first superpower is understanding through writing. If I can't write about something in my own words, I don't understand it yet. This forces me to actually learn instead of just consuming. Now when I study Kubernetes, I don't just watch videos. I write about what I learned in my own words. That writing becomes my understanding. So this is the first function. This is where you force yourself to understand things by writing it in your own words. The second superpower is reference at my fingertips. 6 months into my first junior DevOps role, something weird started happening. The senior engineer started asking me questions. Hey Misha, how did we configure that load balancer last month? Misha, what was that Ansible playbook issue we fixed? Within seconds, I had the answer because I had it all written down in a searchable system. After the 3rd time this happened in front of management, I wasn't a junior anymore. The seniors were calling me into meetings because I had the information. Having a system didn't just help me learn faster, it made me look like a senior engineer within 6 months. I could not believe my eyes when this started happening, but it is true. Like, you will be surprised how disorganized work environments are and how disorganized senior engineers are. I was working with 50, 60-year-old guys on my team, and they had been in that place for over 10 years, and they knew everything kind of in their head, but no one actually took the time to organize it. No one actually wrote things down for some strange reason. So in this environment, I was able to quickly stand out as a junior coming in. I was somehow able to always remember what we did last week, or the thing we decided in a meeting. And like technical people aren't necessarily good at organizing knowledge in that way. So when there were meetings happening, the seniors would have meetings with management or with the product owner. It was like, damn, we fixed this thing the other day, but I can't remember how it was. But Misha, he always knows. So let's call him into the meeting. And they would call me up. I would join the meeting. So what would we do? Oh yeah, 1 second. And I had it in my note-taking system. And within seconds, I was able to reference what we did. Now, if you take the perspective of a product owner or a manager, and you know that a junior is coming into the team, he doesn't have as many skills, but he's a good guy and he has the motivation, so you're willing to give him some time and to let him learn on the job. Well, if that is your sort of level of expectation, and then for several times you see him being called into a meeting and always having the answer, that really increases the status level that you have in management. And this is what I teach also in KubeCraft about personal branding and how to strategically position yourself in markets and in companies. But this stuff does matter. Like, knowing Kubernetes is good, but you have to think about how you are perceived as well. Your personal brand, your reputation, strategical positioning of yourself. And these kinds of skills will position yourself differently. If you're being called into meetings as a junior, this increases the level of perception that people have of you. That's just how it is. People do judge. And by having information organized efficiently, you are increasing your chances of being judged higher by management. That's just how it is. This is what worked for me. Try it out for yourself. I think you will see the same effect. The third superpower is mental clarity. If you have a system you can trust, you don't have to keep things in your mind anymore. You know the knowledge is stored in your system. You know it is there when you need it, because you made the effort to write it down properly in the first place. This frees up your mind to focus on the tasks at hand. And I think this is one of the best benefits of everything. Like, I have a system in place that I have practiced for over 7 years now. And every time I need to store some information, I have a workflow where I write it down, I process it, I put it in its right place, and I know that I will be able to access that instantly because I've referenced it internally and I can search. I've created my own personal searchable Wikipedia with all of the knowledge that I have. And this offloads a lot of the mental effort that you currently are using and forcing yourself to remember things. And you can't know this until you experience it, but it does lead to a lot of mental clarity if you have a system that you can trust. You never have to worry about losing anything. You know that everything is always there when it's properly backed up, and you don't have to expend any effort into that anymore, any mental effort. And this is a massive superpower that will help you focus better and to take on bigger, complex tasks more easily because you have a way of organizing the information properly. So here's what nobody tells you about these learning systems. Everyone talks about tools, Obsidian, Notion, or Todoist. But here's the thing, I could hand you all my tools and you would still struggle. Because the magic isn't in the tools, it's in the system. It's in knowing what to write down and what to ignore, how to process information so it actually sticks, how to connect ideas so you can retrieve them later, and how to turn your notes into certifications, content, and career growth. So over the years, I've spent thousands of hours refining and optimizing this system. Like, this did not come out of thin air. This is many years of hard work that I put into this system. I've watched hundreds of YouTube videos and I've tried every tool and every method so you don't have to. The thing is, like, many DevOps courses or boot camps, they will only focus on what to learn. They will focus on the tech skills, right? But they never teach you how to learn it. And that is the difference here. You can have all of the technical knowledge in the world, but if you forget it in 3 months, what is the point? If you start your job and you have nothing to show for all of that learning, then there's basically no point in doing it all, right? So this is what makes KubeCraft different. I won't just teach you to become a 6-figure remote DevOps engineer. I will also teach you how to do this efficiently and how to do this in a much shorter time because you have the systems. So the systems you get in KubeCraft are all plug and play. You just do the course, you get my complete note-taking system, but you can start working with from day one, and there's no effort that you need to do in order to get started with this. So if that sounds interesting to you, click the link down below, and I'm looking forward to welcome you into KubeCraft. The main takeaway for this video is that you have to learn how to learn. When acquiring any skill, when starting on any journey, you first have to make that journey as optimal as possible by taking a step back and reverse engineering of how can I do this as fast as possible? How can I organize this large amount of information that I need to learn in order to achieve my goal? So do that, take this approach, and I promise you, you will progress faster in your career because the note-taking system has been the #1 lever in my own success. I wish you all the best, good luck with your note-taking system, and I'll see you in the next video.